Christina, please.
System recovery options. Startup repair. Startup repair is a utility that serves as a do-it-all option. When run, it performs a number of repairs, including repairs a corrupted registry by accessing the backup copy in the hard drive. Restore critical boot files, restore critical system and driver files, roll back any non-working drivers, uninstall any incapable service packs and patches, runs justice, runs a memory test to check RAM. Startup repair fixes almost any Windows boot problem.
So here we are. I booted up on the CD and went into the options of itself, and you hit startup repair. Hit finish. As you can see, it should have repaired everything. I can shut down. System restore, as we know, will allow you to restore from any given point. You have system image recovery, which we said earlier. You need to have a specific spot where the image is. You can search for it on the network. You have your Windows memory diagnostics. You can hit it, do it now, and it'll restart. It should take a while there, and let it finish. Any questions or doubts? So in the system restore utility, as you can see here, we've stored back into the point of that date and time, as we stated. Over here in the system image recovery requires you to actually have an image backup of the actual computer to be able to restore. Repair disk itself was what I did to boot up with over here when we went in. As we stated, allows you to recover a computer, bring it back to a point when it was new. If you can only use the reinstall operating system on a PC. Next is the Windows Backup and Restore tool, allows you to create a system repair disk, which is the disk to allow you to come up and boot up. To create a repair disk, follow obviously going to open Backup and Restore, click on the control panel inside the maintenance, and we saw earlier there is a capability of creating the actual repair disk. Questions or doubts? Your patches, guidelines and reading errors related to Windows. The term 86, actually, as I stated, I would love somebody to explain to me where their math comes in. I want to know what x86 really means. Somebody's got to figure it out. 32 bits. Can't even mathematically multiply 32 to get to 86. The CPU, obviously, nowadays can be hybrid. They can do 64-bit or 32-bit operating systems. The IA64 refers to a 64-bit Intel processors, while the term x64 refers to the actual operating system itself. This is the processor, while this is the actual operating system. You must, for Windows 32-bit, you must have the right batch drivers and or applications that corresponds to 32-bit. If I try to install a 64-bit operating system, application on a 32-bit Windows, it will not work. Good thing is that a lot of these 64-bit operating systems and the new processors can mimic the 32-bit. And you can install it. Obviously, it will install it on that other folder. You'll see that you have a program files folder for Windows. Inside Windows, my C drive, I have my 32-bit operating system. All these are 32-bit applications, and these are my 64-bit applications. The regular pelado program files. That's where they're stored. Safe mode. Carlos, help me out there with safe mode.
Boots to safe mode. Safe mode starts up with Windows but loads only very basic non-vendor specific drivers for mouse, keyboard, storage, and system services, along with 800 and 600 or 1024x768 resolution monitor. Once in safe mode, tools such as device managers can be used to locate and correct the source of a problem.
Mm-hmm. Any questions or doubts on safe mode? MS Config utility helps you troubleshoot startup problems by allowing you to select and disable individual items normally executed in startup. We used to do this, like I said, with the auto exec or config sys files. But now, obviously, Windows has come up with this nice little GUI where you can actually config your system. So if I come in to my here, hopefully I have access to that. Yay, I do. I'm not sure I can change anything, but hey, inside the boot, I can decide here, no GUI, boot log. I can also stop services and start up services. I can come in here for startup. And inside startup, I can also determine what will start up when my computer turns on. I can actually disable this guy, enable him. The best bet is always to disable everything and start enabling one at a time to see which one is the problem. If you do multiple steps at a time, you'll never figure out which one actually fixed it or which one is the culprit. The same thing earlier, Daniel was asking me in reference to that PSU. If it does start spinning, and fans start spinning, I would only attach one thing at a time. Turn it on and off every single time to see when it's gonna wind up stopping that fan. The moment that the last thing that I connected obviously has to be the one that's creating the conflict. Any questions or doubts? Your CLI or command prompt allows you to run multiple utilities. It can be launched by typing CMD, run command prompt inside the, as we said in the start menu. When you use as administrator privileges, you'll be able to do elevated command. Otherwise, you're stuck as a user. When we boot up with that little CD, we're also allowed to go into DOS, into the CLI command. And with ease, it'll allow you to then do whatever commands you want as an administrator at that point. Any questions? Doubts? All right. Pretty much went over these here. Any questions on the blue screen, failure to boot, limited connectivity, spontaneous shutdowns, and or the list here? Lázaro, did that help you in reference to the restore understand what the image file compared to a restore point is? What's the major difference?
Yeah, I got the major difference now.
One is one file with the whole image of the thing, so it's going to completely reformat everything, bring it up almost like scratch. And as I've stated, usually you have an image file from the manufacturer that you can actually come up and it restores it back to defaults. Or you can create your own image because you installed Office, you installed BlueStacks, you installed Adobe, you installed a whole bunch of programs. Now you want to create an image file of that so that if anything happens, I can at least come up with that. As long as we understand, we should have a backup before we store from any of the two, either from an image or from a restore point. We should have a backup of the important data. If we did it right, hopefully we have 2 partitions, and then everything just saved on the file partition. While if I wind up restoring anything on the other drive, hopefully there's nothing missing. Either which way, we always want to back up, because restore points will delete. But if I reinstall Windows on top of the Windows directory and I have on the other directory my files, that will not get messed up. All applications need to be reinstalled, but if we don't mess with that second partition, it should retain all files that were saved in there. Should being the keyword, be careful and back up. Questions or doubts?
Can we go over the missing DLL again?
Yeah. Well, the DLL files I'll show you now are files that all applications use to be able to talk to Windows. So
similar to a driver.
it's very similar to a driver, but in this case, instead of controlling hardware, you're actually controlling the computer programs. That's what it contains. Let's see if I can find it. In the C drive. All right. For instance, that Twain driver that we just saw is a driver for scanners. I go in here. Here's my DLL file. So let's say this was the corrupt file. With these, if I go to any other computer that has this exact file in the same exact type of computer and application, with these, I could just copy and paste that file in here. That's all I need to do to fix the issue, because it's going to tell me such and such error, DLL file is missing. All you have to do is just copy and paste it from a known good computer.
Okay.
And if you can't find one?
Reinstall application,
Copy.
which kind of hurts. Make sure you have a backup, obviously, because if you have stuff saved in that, within that application, if there's stuff that's being saved, whatever application it is, then obviously it may wind up deleting everything. So I would be very careful and make sure you back up your data. Any other questions on the pen? All right. Jordan, help me out with this slide here.
When you have limited connectivity issues, the Windows OS will display a yellow triangle on the icon for the network in the lower right corner of your screen. This typically means you do not have access to the internet. First step would be to run ipconfig/all. Review this info to ensure you have a valid IP address and it is on the correct network. Ping localhost 127.0.0.1, ping default gateway, ping another device on the network, or ping a host on the internet, such as Google's DNS server 8888. Possible causes: static IP address misconfigured, a router problem, an external internet problem, a DNS problem, or a third-party software problem.
All right, so question. What can I do for an issue where I get a blue screen of death and it's failure to boot? What can I do? From what we've discussed so far, what troubleshootings can I do to be able to dig into that guy?
First is to check if it's a hardware issue.
How would I
So
check if it's a hardware issue with a blue screen of death?
You have a point. 'Cause I'm thinking that maybe you want to check the hard drive to see if the hard drive blew up or something like that.
Well, look up the error code.
Thank you. That is the first thing I got to do before I do anything. I need to look at that number. That number is my friend, because the kernel who is talking to the hardware at that moment got an error. So that code should be hopefully our first line of defense. Obviously, yes, we can do some further digging after that. We've found some other things that we can do. But the first thing is we should do very quickly is look up that code, see what's going on, then maybe dig a little further. Remember always to do the least intrusive first. And the least intrusive in this would be to verify the actual code and see if Windows has anything on that one. What about, let's see, what other errors did we see earlier? Improper shutdowns or spontaneous shutdown and restart. Maybe or a device fails to shut down. I mean, to be detected. It's improper shutdowns, spontaneous shutdowns. What do you guys think?
So can you say it again? So it's shutting down and restarting, or it's just not being detected?
It can be, yeah, it can be either an improper shutdown, spontaneous shutdowns, almost out of nowhere, it just shuts down, and the device fails to be detected. All of these fall into the same more group where you can do something to try to diagnose the issue.
First, I'll check to see if the BIOS is able to detect it. If the BIOS can't detect it at all, then at that point you may need a repair disk media to see if it can detect it.
How would a repair disk detect the device? So I can understand where we're going exactly.
I'm thinking the following: if it suddenly shuts down, that means it's corrupted. And if the BIOS is having struggle to detect it, maybe you can put a recovery disk, and maybe the recovery disk has a program where it's like, oh, I know what this file is, when it's trying to read the hard disk.
Okay. But the repair disk only brings me a menu. That's why I'm confused. Where am I going to go in this menu? I put the repair disk, it boots up. I'm in a menu. Where do I go? No? Yeah, maybe.
I'm not sure actually.
So
I'm
wait, the question
thinking
was random shutdowns
Mm-hmm.
and lack of,
Device fails to be detected.
well, you
We could do
could check
diagnostics of the BIOS to the memory and all that stuff. But let's say if it's a sound card, would the BIOS see the sound card?
doubt it.
Would a BIOS recognize a video card?
Yeah.
What does BIOS check?
BIOS checks hardware, doesn't it?
We need to dig into that, guys. Go into your BIOSes whenever you have chance and see all the diagnostics that you have in there. Make sure. Another way we can do is boot up in safe mode, right? And see if I can see what the problem is. Maybe the driver itself is out of date, or maybe something's creating conflict. So going into safe mode may help us too, right? If I'm unable to detect it or fix it inside the BIOS or figure out what the problem is, that's another one. How about if the PC is very slow? PC is very slow.
that could be many things. first is check the task manager to see what resource is being taken the most. And then you can either kill the process or troubleshoot that application causing the issue. If none of that is the case, it could be that you don't have enough space in your hard drive, so it's slowing down everything. Or it could be a virus. Usually this activity can help you find a virus. Or you can do a virus scan to see if that's the case.
Okay, one more. One more. You're almost there. You need one more. Close to running out of space, but it's something else.
Defragment the drive.
That's correct. If it's in the old HDD drives, it's not an SDD drive, you may need to defrag the drive, right? I'm missing a boot INI or NTLDR files.
Sorry, say it again.
I'm missing a boot.ini file or NTLDR. Missing my NTLDR, my NT loader. What can help me fix that? What was the tool? Missing operating system files. In case if you guys don't understand what an NTLDR or boot INI file.
Is the computer still running or it just won't run?
Boots up and it says missing NLTDR. And if it's boots up and it says missing boot INI, there's no way it's going to boot. It will save those things.
Will a safe mode work so you can check, or it just there's no boot? OOS cannot be detected.
It's not going to boot. No. It will come up with a actual black screen, unable to boot.
I guess we can try using BIOS diagnostic tool again.
Will the BIOS fix my Windows operating system?
No,
Is it
but
the system file checker?
System file checker may be able to fix that, right? I can also boot up with one of those CDs itself, right? And try to repair it.
The Windows recovery environment.
Mm-hmm. So you should be able to recover it, or from a last boot up with a CD and come up with a last restore point or an image, or that's obviously more intrusive than the ones that you guys said. But I just want to say there is obviously other options. If the fixing of the system file checker doesn't fix it, if the SFC doesn't fix it, then obviously we're going to have to dig a little bit further and actually maybe restore or reinstall, depending. Questions, doubts? Well, we already went through that one, Jordan. Missing a DLL file or program fails to boot application. I'm missing a DLL file or an application fails to start. What should we do, Jordan, for the missing DLL?
You can copy the DLL from another machine and paste it in if possible. You may have to reinstall the application.
Okay. How about if the application just doesn't want to start at all, like reinstalled it and everything, and never wanted to start? What can I do? What could be maybe an issue?
It's not like corruption. I'm assuming you would have to probably restore the entire or recover it.
No. It's the first time since I first time installed it, it doesn't want to work. I installed it and I keep reinstalling it. Doesn't want to work. Every time I run it for the user, it doesn't want to work. Matter of fact, I restart it, come in with my ID, and it works. And I let them go back in, it doesn't want to work.
Wouldn't that mean that whatever user can't, they can't run? They don't have the permissions.
You just hit it on the target, right? That was the ones with those old systems that may require administrative rights to run that program. So you might have to run as administrator when using that application. Another thing that may be a problem is the compatibility error, where the actual compatibility is on the old versions of Windows. You need to go and right-click the executable file and make it run on the other Windows environment. Any questions or doubts on this one before we wrap her up?